It's my great pleasure this morning, and many of you got to see the enthusiasm and meet yesterday, Ms. Dee Raap. She is an author, trainer, motivational speaker, and coach with 25 years of leadership experience working in media, travel, banking, and marketing. Since 1996, she's helped clients in topics related to communication, service, leadership, and self-care, which we got a glimpse of yesterday. Wasn't that such a treat? She's trained in the AmeriCorps Vista program since '98. So important to our field. I think everyone has worked with Vistas, and just thank you for that. She's the author of 4 books on healing and service, has served on a board as a board member for 7 nonprofits, and is a member of the National Speakers Association. She lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and is joining us today from the lovely Corvallis, Oregon.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Courtney. And thank you for being the room host. It was great fun meeting you before this, and welcome to everybody. Finding your power. We've got a really big, important topic, and we're going to cover a lot of ground. I think when we get to the hour mark, I will just stop sharing the PowerPoint so we can all be on, and then just kind of talk and answer whatever questions. And here's my promise to you. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to give you the very best of my brain cells and the best of my experience and the best of my scars that I've learned in life along the way trying to do this stuff. But if I don't get it answered the right way, you are more than welcome to email me. I don't have a slide with my email on it, but if you mind, it's just this simple. It's dd@ddwrap.com. And I have a lot of vowels in my name. So if you just look at my name right now, it's Dee Raap. Just go DD spelled out at ddwrap.com and email me if you have a specific. If I can help you, I'm very willing to. And if I can't, I'll tell you that as well. This is an important topic, and I kind of feel like I'm the old broad many times when I work with younger people, and I coach, especially coaching women on this topic. But I've coached men, I've coached bank presidents who had a hard time finding their power. Believe that. I mean, it's like, this isn't easy for a lot of people. And it seems to be, sometimes I think it could be cultural, can be gender, it can be experience. So many things just can get in the way and make it hard for us. But this is about finding it today. And I've got a handout, so hopefully you have a handout. And again, I tried to build the PowerPoint, so if you don't have the handout, but you have a piece of paper, you can still, write down a lot of things. So I want to start, and anytime I call one of these off and you want to just say yes to it. I'm going to call off 4 questions. First one is, have you ever, or do you ever feel like a doormat because you just let somebody run right over you? Yes or no? Do you ever say yes when what you really want to say is the word no? Do you ever keep your opinions to yourself when you're in a space where others are loud or brash, and so you just kind of go into quiet mode? Or does the idea of confronting someone make your stomach just kind of get tight or churn, or your chest gets tight, or your heart feels like it closes, or your neck hurts? Do you ever have a physical reaction? So if you say yes to any of those, Courtney, any yeses there? Courtney, you're muted.
Resounding yeses all through.
So lots of yeses, yeah.
Lots of yeses, resounding guilty, LOL, definitely me, all across the board. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, and this boat can be big. And let's try to get it down to the size of the kayak that I love to be in. Let's try to make it more manageable today if we can. Okay, it really is about finding your voice and then using it. And that voice is your ability to communicate with other people. And so it really is about first figuring out what's going on. So we'll spend some time on that, and then figuring out what you need to have happen, and then how we do those connections. So I don't know about you, but home sweet home kind of started to mean something different during the pandemic. I was not so happy to be at my home sweet home all the time anymore. I'm a speaker, and almost all of my gigs, in fact, I was going to Philadelphia for a Vista related event the day everything just closed down. And then I only had a few gigs the rest of the year, and then not many last year, and it's getting busier, but it really impacted all of us in different ways. And it made me feel powerless. I got to a real grumpy spot during the pandemic. I don't know about you, but I couldn't leave home to work. I couldn't really go and see my family. I still haven't seen my brother in 2 years. Okay. Because, we have some high risk things. And so I haven't seen them. And I remember the day I got really mad, even the libraries were closed. And I used to be a library trustee, and I worked in a library in college. And to me, libraries are always open, and so I was like, oh. And all of that led for me to a lot of negativity and fear, but I also saw that kind of nationally. And we saw some really hard things take place during the COVID time, between the elections and the Capitol thing. And, and then the fear of losing people and I pray that you haven't lost anybody to COVID, but a lot of people did. And so I think all of this says it's a perfect time to really think about our power when we're in bad places or hard places. And that is about finding it and really owning it. And that can be a trick. For me anyway, that can be a trick. And if you've ever found yourself just struggling to find the right words, then you're in good company with me, because I can still struggle. I've learned to, while I'm trying to find them sometimes. But I want to say welcome to the club that nobody really wants to belong to. It is hard, but I'm here to tell you today that I guarantee that this is something that is just a skill. And like yesterday when we talked about self-care, how self-care, I was telling Courtney before we started, when we were kids, and when I was a kid, I was a snare drummer, and I loved to drum, and I would practice and drive my family crazy, but I loved to practice. Well, then it seems like once we become adults, I'm not going to practice. I should already know that. Or whatever the excuse is that we don't practice. This is just a skill. And every single skill we have in life, we can practice and enhance. And when we work on this one, I guarantee you, this has a way of reducing our stress. Every time we practice this and we try in the way I'm going to give you, which doesn't really ever offend anybody, then my neck gets better. It just releases. And I also think that we live in a more positive space when we own our power. So there's less stress and the space is just more positive. So that to me are two really big, great reasons to pursue this. Okay. My granddaughter, I am in her bedroom now because I'm in Corvallis, Oregon. Do I know where I'm at? I'm trying. I'm in her bedroom. And this is a picture from about 3 years ago. She does something that's called silk aerials, and it scares the crap out of me. And she's been doing it for 3 or 4 years. And little pill, they can drop, like 5 or 10 feet. And she knows that will just scare me. So she does it just to scare me. But she has become one of my role models in life because she decided to do something. She identified what she wanted to do. She learned how to do it, and then she practiced and she enhanced her skill. Well, that's the essence of this, and so can you do this? Absolutely. Everybody can. It's just a practice, just experience. For the past 20 years, I've been really blessed to work in a lot of different areas, customer service and leadership, but communication is just like, it weaves through everything. And helping people do this is really a matter of helping them find a simple process. So I'm not going to be talking a lot of theory today. It's going to be practical, simple. In fact, you'll even find some very strong similarities to something we did yesterday. So to start, this is just for you. You don't have to share this in the chat, but I want you to remember a recent situation that you had to confront or deal with, something you had to communicate with somebody about, and it was hard. I want you just to remember it what kinds of choices you made, what kinds of words you used, and then what were the consequences? What were the results? And when we get to the end of this, I'm going to ask you to think about the process that we're going to cover and see if that could help you with that. I want this to be very personal and very, very real for you today. Okay. So when we communicate, in the big, broad category of communication, there's really three styles. We can be aggressive, and I think we all know people who are, and maybe once in a while you are, but I'm doubting if you're in here, you're not probably very aggressive. One can be passive, and I'm not proud to admit that I used passive communication for a long time in my life, and I've learned better than that. The one we're really here today to talk about is this one, assertive. And again, this is a DD Raap definition. This is not from Webster, but I think it's saying things that you need to say. For whatever reason, you have something that you need to address. And you need to do it in an honest, effective way without creating undue anxiety. Nobody needs more anxiety today. And we need to do it in a manner that doesn't infringe upon anybody else, but really speaks truth to our own gut, our own personal power, to who we are. And really and truly, it's moving from that thing called our comfort zone to our courage zone. When my granddaughter learned the silk aerials thing, she was going from not knowing something from her comfort zone to her courage zone. Me watching her, I have tried to not think she's going to crash and burn and die every time. So I've tried to move from my comfort zone of don't do that to my courage zone. She knows what she's doing. And that does make my experience a lot more fun watching her. Okay, so that's the assertive communication definition, and that's on the top of the first page of your handout. So I'd like you to chat on this one. How do you feel when you've had a positive conversation, a positive confrontation? You had to deal with something. How does it feel when it went well? What would be one or two words that would describe how you felt? Were you relieved? How did it feel? And Courtney Courtney can share those as they come up. Excuse me.
So we have unsured, valued, accomplished, confident, relieved, energized, a few more relieved.
Valued, confident, energized.
Accomplished.
Accomplished. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, those are all good.
Confident, empowered. A couple there, a relief has come up a few times. And I would say beyond that, several empowered.
Okay, cool.
And a few unsure, not quite sure how to handle that.
Yeah. And that's honest. That's
gratified.
Good. Gratified. Yeah. Grateful. You want to hang on to how it feels as part of your reward for doing it, because you want to remember that it feels really good when it does go well. It does feel relieved. Your confidence grows every time you practice this. And even if you go through the process and nothing changes, you have owned your power. Okay. You have stood up for yourself. And that's growth, no matter what else happens. Okay. Because we can't change anybody. We'd like to, but we can't, but we will try to influence them with our words. Now, on the flip side, and I love this cartoon. If you can see it, says, did you know that when a cat wags its tail, it means something completely different? Communication, right? How do you feel when you've had a less than positive confrontation with somebody? What's the flip side of it? What's the downside when it doesn't go well? How does it feel?
Deflated, defeated, depressed, frustrated. reflecting, thinking back to be reflective and honest. After that, like reflection was needed. Sad, exhausted, disappointed, annoyed.
Oh, annoyed. Yeah.
Confused.
Well, you guys all belong to my club. Those are exactly how I feel when things don't go right too. Yeah. So again, that would be the, excuse me. That would be the painful part of when it doesn't work. So we want to learn from our pain. We can't hide from it. And again, when it does get there, then remember from yesterday, use that little bit of self-compassion to say, this really hurts right now. This is really frustrating. I feel defeated. I feel sad. And just acknowledge that again, instead of just pretending that everything's fine. Okay. Be real about that for yourself. That's a little sidebar into self-care on this stuff. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for chatting with that. This is so much about, we've all got that backbone, and we just need to use it. We just need to own that we've got this in us. And little by little, we can get better and better, okay? So why do we make the choice to not tackle stuff sometimes? What makes us stay in our comfort zone? And sometimes I think it's that we don't think that the other person knows that what they're doing is wrong. We think, well, they don't know it's inappropriate. They don't know what our organization is really about. Sometimes we just don't want to hurt people. And if you were raised by somebody like my mom, Betty, you were taught to not hurt people. So you don't want to hurt people. Sometimes we think we're just not even allowed to really tell people that you didn't like what they did or said or whatever happened. And that does not equal whining, okay? When you speak up, it's not a exercise in whining. You might be afraid of the consequences. I talked to somebody, an attorney friend of mine, who's going to challenge, she's with a team of 11 other lawyers, and they're going to challenge the board on some pretty tough issues. It's a nonprofit legal services organization. And when we were going through her argument, I said, okay, are you prepared to lose your job? And she said, I am. I said, okay, because that's the ultimate. If you challenge something at that level, it could happen. And hopefully you're not dealing with that kind of stuff. But sometimes you have to think of what might the consequences be. You might be afraid of being too aggressive. And sometimes people get called names when they are deemed aggressive, or you just don't know how. And so that's what we're going to tackle today, is how do we do this? But what happens when we don't step into that courage zone? We pay a price. The behavior may or may not stop. It may or may not. And your relationship may suffer because you're not able to really be honest about something that's bothering you. You might lose confidence in yourself. You might say, why can't I do this? Why can't I say, I don't want you to keep doing that, or whatever it is. You might fear that people have a negative impression about you. And there's a lot of, be happy out there. And that can make us say, well, maybe I can't really. You can do this. You absolutely can do this. So I have this on the bottom of your handout. And if you don't have a handout and you don't get it, you want this slide emailed to you, I can do that. And the flamingo on the right says, it says, you were born to stand tall, in case you can't see that. The courage zone affirmation is, I have the courage to be myself. I speak and act in authentic ways. I trust, that self-trust, that I am capable. I know what's important to me. I've thought this through, and to the job that I am doing. I know what matters for the work that I'm doing. I have the right to make my own choices, as well as to learn from my mistakes. And we all do that. We're going to make mistakes. We have the right to make them and to learn from them. And I have the ability to be and do my best every day. I think that's a real powerful place to be with finding your power. Okay. So we talked yesterday about role models. I had to bring in the same one because this is my favorite slide of all time when I think about role models. You maybe had somebody who was really good about helping you see that, you just got to stand up for yourself. Or you may have somebody who was just not so good at it. But those role models can really be great examples. And the one I want to share with you today is you have to just kind of become aware of that too. So when my daughter was in college, before she married the soldier, and they were in college, she called me and she was just sobbing. And she said, Mom, Dave's being deployed. And she was just in tears. It was his first deployment before they were married. And I've never had that kind of a phone call in my life. And all I could come up with was, I said, remember all the strong women that you are related to in your family. Think about them and think about all the hard stuff that they faced in life, just like you're facing this, and borrow their courage. I don't know where that line came from, but I've used it ever since then too. Sometimes I think what we have to do is remember people who were really great role models for us and just borrow their courage, use some of their words, try on some of their styles. Think about, how did they do this hard stuff? How did they survive some of these things? What did they say? What did they do? So I'd like you to think about your role model in this. Who's the most positive role model you had for having a difficult conversation, having the ability to confront somebody? And what I would like you to share in the chat is, what did you learn from that person? What did you learn from them? Did you learn to stand up? Did you learn to take a deep breath? Did you learn to just plow ahead anyway, to not be so scared? What did you learn from that person? It could be a mom or a dad. It could be a coach, a teacher, grandparents, somebody who cared how you turned out and you just spent some time around them and you've seen them communicate. Or it could be somebody that you know now. It could be somebody from right now who, like my granddaughter, role models for me the courage to do this silk aerial routine that still scares me, if I'm honest about it. So Courtney, are there any answers in that?
I can see lots of dots. I think people are
thinking. Yeah.
I'm starting to put in now, so I will pop in as soon as we have full thoughts on here.
Okay.
Fierceness.
Oh, nice.
Honesty, humor.
Oh, humor can be great in this.
They listened before they spoke. Anna says her mom. If it does not leave you feeling calm and okay, it should not affect how you continue your day.
If it doesn't leave you feeling calm and okay,
it should not affect how you continue your day.
Okay. That's really wise.
Some well thought out mom advice there.
That's gold star to that mom for teaching you that. Wow. I could teach my daughters that. That's cool. See, you guys have got so much of this. You've got great role models. And if we're honest, we probably have some bad examples too. So it's kind of like what I said yesterday, more and less. Do more of what works, do more of the positive examples, and try to do less of what doesn't work. And I remember when I was working in South Dakota tourism, and I don't know what it was, but I was a manager. I had like 8 people on my staff, and everybody was busy traveling around the world promoting Mount Rushmore. And one day I got really mad and I slammed my door really hard. And to this day, I remember doing that, and I'm not proud of it, but I don't think I've slammed my door very many times since then. So sometimes we can self-reflect on what did we do that was, and we said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, and then we can just learn from that. So it's really a learning process. Okay, this should look familiar to you. I've got the map. I use it in most of my things for like 20 years. It has just worked very well for me to help us think about What's in our head? What's going on? What are we reacting to? What action do we want to, what change do we need? What action we want to have take place? And then P is always about people and relationships and checking in. And this is on the top of your second page. This is the 3 keys. So when we think about mindset, we want to think about what's really going on. What are you mad about? What are you concerned about? What's bothering you? What is the thing? And under action, it's you want to be able to ask for something to be done differently, or you're going to do something differently. And then people, it's you want them to be able to be, you're looking for an agreement. You're looking for a check-in with this person to see if they even at least understand where you're coming from. Okay. So before we go any farther, I would love to know what other words you would use in place of the word assertive. If you were to say, here's a synonym for assertive, what would you say would be that word? What other words would help us as we go through this process of thinking in terms, I am being blank. I'm being assertive. I'm being blank. I'm being blank. I'm being blank. What other word would you put in there?
Dee Dee, we're seeing a lot of direct.
Okay.
Bold, upfront, bossy,
bossy,
pressing, decisive.
Cool. I think in terms of 3 other words as well. I think in terms of the word fair, I think much of life can be about creating arguments that are fair, that nobody can really argue against, because fair is hard to argue against. It can be subjective, but things that you think could be fair or more fair. Honest, I think it's really about what you're really thinking. So the honest part about what you're feeling. And another big word for me is authentic. This is about your real power. This is about who you really are and what's really going on. So those are 3 that I would add to that great collection that you just shared. So let's get into mindset. Again, this is on your handout, but I put it in here in case you didn't have the handout. So it's really important that we can be specific. I can just feel mad, but that's kind of like, well, what's really going on? And when you are specific, it's so much better to use I statements rather than saying, you did this to me. I have done that plenty enough times in my life that I've learned to say, instead of you didn't do that, I can say, you know, I wish you had done that. I wish this hadn't happened. But I is a positive, powerful place to land here with mindset. And it also just keeps you from kind of judging right away or sound judgmental. When you say you, instantly people get defensive. And the second point, again, on the handout as well, is to not label, blame, or accuse. And this is, I think in terms of these adverbs, when we say, you always do that, or you never do that, or you seldom do that, or this always happens, or that never happens, those are just weak words. So try not to use those words. Try to be more specific about when things happened. And again, the third point is breathe and think relationship. And sometimes I ask myself, I say, okay, try to understand, but put yourself in those shoes for a minute. And then I also say, why would a reasonable person do this or say this? Okay, what's really going on here? So, but mindset is all about something happened, somebody did something, somebody didn't do something. So you have to kind of get specific and figure out what's going on with it. And an example I want to share with you on this one is I'm coaching a 40-year-old woman. And she told me a great story one day. With her, it's a lot about this kind of stuff and her confidence. And she told me that when she was a little girl, she would play with her cousins, and lots of times the grandmother was their babysitter for the day. And, you know, something happened and she would cry or somebody else would cry, and whenever one of the kids cried, the grandmother would say, and I wrote this down, she would say, "What are you crying about? What's really going on?" I think that's so powerful for her to have gotten that lesson as a little girl. So mindset is really about what's really going on? What's really going on? So you can clarify it. And the being specific is really important. So before I go there, on your, let me see. Okay, next part. We'll go to the next part. So in your handout, you've also got this. How could you improve this statement? You always make me write the report. Let's just say that you're just plain tired. You have the understanding that this was going to be a team activity. You were going to rotate. And so that was your understanding. And now it seems like you've always got to write it. And gosh, it takes at least 2.5 hours every time you gather it together. Maybe it's a board report. But you know, how can you say that? Well, on the handout, I have the same thing with 2 options, which is more effective. The first way, you always make me write the report, or getting specific and saying, for the past 2 months, I have written the entire report. You see how much more specific that is and how it's an I statement? And the impact is, well, we'll get to the impact in a second, but for the past 2 months, I've had to do this. Is that clear? Does that?
Brittany adds to the chat too. I'd really like to see this report from your perspective. That was great.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's what you want to do in the action part, because in the action, so mindset is like, what's going on in my head? And then action is, I need to ask for something to be done differently. So again, specific, what do you really want? On the handout also, I have these, what I call softening statements. You know, the goal here is to create this positive change, right? You're not trying to pummel somebody. You're not trying to make somebody feel bad. You're trying to seek a change because you found your power and you don't like what's going on. So you want something to be done differently. So sometimes you might be direct and sometimes you might be a little less direct. And I call those softening statements. And so I have 3 in your handout as well. And they are these 3. You might say, I want, or I would like, or could you? Okay, those are just 3 different ways to ask for something. So you're not, again, being maybe too direct. Maybe the person has no idea. Maybe they're a brand new supervisor and they came in even after the agreement was made, or maybe they're just overwhelmed with their job or life, or maybe something else is going on in their life. So you don't need to be direct and pummel. You can be clear and concise and still get to the same place and maintain the relationship. So with this one, for the past 2 months, I've written the entire report. What do you think you would ask for? What did Brittany say there?
I'd love to see this report from your perspective.
Ah, okay. What else? Who else would have something to say on that? What do you want to see? Is anybody else offering anything, or should I just go on?
This might be a longer response. It looks like folks might be typing still.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. It's an important one. That's the first one. So I'd kind of like to, if they have some more things to say, it would be great to hear it.
Yeah. So we'll give it just a minute if anyone wants to pop there what you would like into the chat. It looks like there's some dots going, like.
Okay, if there's some dots, we'll wait a second. We're doing good for time.
Great.
But even if you're not writing right now, I'd like you to think about, what would you ask for? For the past 2 months, you've had to write the entire report. What would you ask? Before I share with you some options here.
Could the responsibility be shared?
Okay.
Is there another group member who might be able to do it?
And that's what you'd really like is to have the responsibility shared, taking turns, right? Yeah. Well, let me show you.
Oh, equality. Denise says,
Trying for equality. Yeah.
I would like equality.
Okay. So,
yeah, how would someone feel about sharing this responsibility?
Okay.
From Nate, thank you.
So here's the example again. For the past 2 months, I've written the entire report. And then what I've written here is what you might say. Again, this is not like an exact blueprint. This is just my suggestion. Find your own words. But the example I share with people is, I have work that I'm not able to complete. So I would like to take turns writing it. And you might add, I really believed that this was something that we were taking turns on. And so I'd really like to take turns writing it. How does that land with you? Does that work? Can you all see that okay on the screen?
Yes.
So on your handout, you go ahead and write that one down if you want to, and just so you have this as an example, and then you can play with it some more. But if I was a supervisor and had somebody say, for the past 2 months, I've written the entire report and I have work that I'm not able to complete. And I thought we were taking turns with this. So I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to take turns writing it. Some version of that, I think, would not make anybody defensive. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here is trying to own your power without making anybody else feel defensive. Because when people feel defensive, they have to defend themselves. It's kind of like that's just going to come out of us. Okay. So then it's time for the people to check in with the other person. And this is not overly complicated. I just have these simple suggestions here because you're trying to maintain a relationship. So, but it does require a response. This is a dialogue. This isn't designed to just be a monologue. It's designed to be a connecting point. And by the way, this can just be a connecting point that goes into a bigger conversation. This is really how you can start these conversations. And there might be more details. Maybe your workload becomes part of the discussion. Maybe you are, just doing too much. Maybe you are the best report writer this person has ever seen. And they're willing to say, what could I take away from your workload to allow you to write the reports because you really do a superb job and I just don't have that skill anyplace else. It's a discussion, it's a dialogue. But so when you're at the point of you've said, you've thought what you need and you've said it, then you say, is that okay? Can this happen? Or what do you think about this? Are we okay with this? So now here, I'd like you to chat about what would be your version of this. If you were checking in with somebody to say, can we do this? What might be the easiest words for you to say? Or which one of these do you like the best? Which one sounds good to you?
Brittany says, do you have any questions about how to get this started?
That one works well if you are the supervisor going down. If you're going up to a supervisor, that one might make somebody defensive.
Can I hand over my notes?
Can I hand over my notes? We might have to talk about that one later on. I'm not quite sure about that one. Can I give my notes to somebody else to write the report?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Sorry.
I'm
not always the fastest.
We can take just another minute. Do people have, oh, would you like my notes to help guide you?
Well, and another option might be, maybe you could train somebody else to do it.
And from Mo, She asks, are you comfortable with that? Is there any
Oh,
guidance I can give you?
that's a really good one. I think. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah. And Darcy, what can I do to help you with this?
Good, 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 good. Okay. You guys are good. Good. Okay. So let's practice. And you've got, again, on your handout, you've got a place for let's practice. Let's just say that you have a coworker. So you're on the same level with this person. They're not the boss. They don't work for you, same level. And they make appointments to see you. And she or he or they're always late, or they don't show up at all. So they make these appointments and then there are no shows. Now, what might go on in your mind with that one? What would be in your mind? And based upon what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what would be the action that you'd want to take?
So in the chat, people are frustrated and feeling like their time is not respected.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone want to pop in some actions they might take? Yeah, they're feeling like that person really does not respect their time.
Yep. And respect is a big word, isn't it?
Mhm.
Oh,
It's really popping up here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's respected.
okay. So I'm frustrated. I don't feel respected when you make appointments and you don't show up. Okay. So what action are you going to ask for? This is great. You guys are great, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what would you say? What change do you want to see?
Brittany says, I understand that things come up. A call, text, or email to keep me in the loop would be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe giving some options. Darcy says, offer to come to them.
Ooh, oh, smart. Yes. We had an appointment scheduled. You were a no show, but I'm a show. Sorry. Sometimes I'm sarcastic. Sorry, work on that.
Yes, she says, I'm here. LOL.
I'm here. It's our time. Yeah. Oh, especially, and part of that can be, I'm not going to tell you to be sarcastic people. But sometimes a little bit of sarcasm can be a little bit funny. You don't want to overdo it because that can hurt. But it's like, oh, well, I'm here on time. I don't know.
Brittany agrees. She says sarcasm definitely has its uses.
It has its uses, yes. Yeah. And then how do you check in? You say, call me, I'm going to come see you, and then what's your check-in with this person?
And Anna says, send a reminder about the meeting time the day of to check in with them. Would you, or asking, Brittany says, asking, would you like a reminder?
Yes. Is it okay if I send you a reminder the day before? Or I will send you a reminder the day before. Because then, and depending, of course, on your systems and what you got, and email or text, whatever you use. I'm a big believer that gentle reminders are really a nice thing to offer people in this crazy busy world. Gentle reminders can save a lot of hard feelings. Okay. I think a lot of times people don't mean to be jerks or stupid or mean or whatever. We forget because there's so much. That's my belief. So then how do they check in with it, Courtney?
So we have a lot of agreement around, what if I send you a calendar invite to help us both remember? Are we still on for this?
Yep.
That whatever the date and time is.
Good. Good.
I've added this agreed upon meeting to both of our calendars. Please let me know if this time does not work for you, from Lindsay.
Good.
I like reminding that it was agreed upon. Yeah.
So you are gently reminding them that this was something that we agreed to. And you know what you're really trying to do is perhaps teach somebody how to follow through on what they say they're going to do. And so that's a very nice way to do it. You know, we've agreed to this, and now is the time. I'm proud of you guys, because nobody said I'm just not going to do it, or you know, and it is such a time. I'm assuming that you are all very busy people, and when you're very busy and somebody blows off meetings repeatedly, that is a when I lived in Wyoming, we would say that's a big burr under that saddle. Okay, so it's not a good thing. So you guys all handle that really well. Thank you. So so here's what I said, in case you didn't say anything, but you did. I said mindset could be, you know, I appreciate that you want to meet with me, but it's frustrating when you're late or you simply don't show up. I need to ask you to only make appointments that you could commit to attending. And if you cannot be here, I would really expect to know in advance. So can we make that happen? Are we good here? So that's just my version in case you were silent. Okay. But it, you know, maybe some things in there that you can glob onto if so. And again, if you want this slide, just let me know and I can send it to you. I think that it's good that people want to meet. So you affirm the positive stuff, and then you can say, but I need this to happen. And if I can't, I need to know in advance. So you're saying what you need, and that's good. That's powerful. You have tapped into what you really want and need. And then you've got the check-in. Okay. So here's one that's kind of just maybe off the wall, and yet you'd be surprised how real this has been in the world of cubicles over my career of training people. Your coworker plays music that really upsets your concentration. How would you say what's bothering you, and what would you ask your coworker to do differently? So go ahead and put in the chat, if you don't mind, what you would do for a mindset, what's going on with you, what would you ask for, and then how would you check in? You really don't like that music because it's just you cannot think with it. It's like just say it's something that, and you might love music, but for some reason this music is just not helping you. It's just, or you're just in a big project and it's like it's just too much right now to have noise that doesn't help you think. How could you say what you're really going through there, and what would you ask them?
So this is interesting one, and probably like this is just a super honest one, but I would honestly just roll with it, and then admit and admits maybe not super healthy. And then another is, hey, this music was a bit too loud for me to concentrate. Could you turn it down?
Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny about this one? This one has been a burr under saddles, and it comes from training a high-level group many years ago, and now we have the ability to just get earbuds. But some people feel bad about even asking people to use earbuds. Seriously, I'm not saying that you guys have that, but I've had groups say, well, could I really? Yes, you can ask people to make the sound just for them. With earbuds.
And Elma, just put that in. Like, could they please use earbuds?
Yeah. But again, when you're raised to be so nice and you don't want to hurt anybody or upset the apple cart or something like that, then you might say, well, maybe no, just politely say, I can't concentrate with that music, and I love it that you love that music, but please, and then here's some earbuds you could use until you get your own, if you happen to have a spare set. And then say, is that okay with you? Okay, thank you. Really great to end with thank you on these.
Yeah. Oh, there's some fun. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to kind of trace the thread. I think some folks said maybe they would recommend bands or songs kind of to let that person know. And then Lindsay says, I love the music you're playing. However, it's interrupting my focus, and I'd appreciate it if we could listen to this music during our lunch break together.
Yes. So see, you have lots of options.
Yeah.
You have lots of options. But what happens if you just sit there and you just get mad, or you just let it get under your skin, or you just go, oh. And maybe it's not because you don't want to speak up. Maybe you had a really hard day with something personally. Maybe you've suffered a loss. Maybe you're coming out of stuff with COVID. Maybe something else happened in your life and you're not feeling like you're really, really strong at that moment. That's where this map is such a, I'm really grateful that one day I got that acronym, because we can figure out what's going on up here and then, speak it, ask about it, and then check in, because, I'm the old broad in my family. And I know now that it's not good to burn bridges. Except I did see a Facebook meme recently that said, light the match and burn it, baby. Sometimes you do want to, but where you're at in your career, when you're younger, you don't want to be burning very many bridges, because people keep showing up and you never know. You just never know. So you want the relationship to be positive. You want to ask in a nice way. So it's about just remembering that you have this tool. What's in my mind? What can I ask for? Check in. Okay. Because so many times when this stuff happens, we get into that emotional place. Well, they don't have the right to, I'm supposed to get this done and I can't, and we just, unless you always stay calm. I don't always stay calm in those situations. I can get rattled. So I have to just regroup myself and say, this is what I can do. Okay. So let's see. We've got, we can do some practice before we get into Q&A. Hold on one second here. I took some notes from stuff that Anna gave me.
It's about 11:25, so we have some time.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find, because, well, actually, you know what? If I just plow through these and then we get into the Q&A, we could do this as a Q&A. How would that be? Everybody okay with that?
Thumbs up or yes in the chat. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here's the one I was looking for, where I had written this down, because I just got these from her. So the situation is this: you've got a child that you work with who is suffering from depression. Read this while I close my window, please.
Okay, the situation is you have a child you work with who is suffering from depression, feeling alone. You're concerned with their mental health. You would like to help them receive assistance. What is your MAP? M-A-P.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? What's your I statement? What do you, and I got this from Anna. So this, of course, it's not a lot of detail. So if you can get this into your world, that it would be good. So I tried to make it as real as possible without knowing any kind of details. But you have a concern about this child's mental health, and you want them to get some help. Does that ever happen in your space? And if so, what would be your map? What would be your mindset? Hold on, my window. Is anybody answering, Courtney? Otherwise, we'll just turn that into a Q&A afterwards.
I don't see anyone typing yet. It could be, that folks are taking some time with the steps.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. One, I would give parents information on what I observed. And then step two, give information on local resources, like what mental health services there might be.
So could it sound like I have seen examples that tell me that your child could be suffering from depression, and they seem to be struggling with a sense of feeling alone. So I am concerned about their mental health. You have a great child. I would like to offer you these resources, and maybe part of the check-in in that situation is to offer to help them get connected with those resources. I'm not sure how far you go with that work, but I hope this makes sense in terms of, you know, you're not saying you haven't taken good care of your child. You haven't paid attention to what's going on here, or you don't know. You're saying what you've seen, what you've witnessed, what you've experienced and seen with this child. And then you want to, you know, I can offer you these resources, information about them, where, cost, or whatever it is that goes along with that. And then check in to say, are you okay with this? Can I help you any more? You all know that if somebody's in this situation, that it's difficult, but it's also important that you be able to speak up. And I'm going to show one more slide after this. Or Courtney, are there any other comments about this one?
One just came in. Oh, two. What about starting with an open-ended question, like just checking in with the student, maybe trying to get some more information. And then Chris says, I've noticed you've been a bit more quiet lately, or whatever it is that he's observed. Right. I was wondering how you're doing. Oh, and then keep asking those open-ended questions and non-judgmental questions.
Yes.
To initiate conversation and then bring in the resource. And then Anna says, how have you been the last few days? I've noticed you're quieter than usual. Is there anything I can help you with?
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And those are great.
And then Martha and then I have a question for you from Martha in the Q&A section. And
okay.
Martha, if that's okay with you, I'll go ahead and hold it, and maybe we can.
Yeah, we'll get the Q&A in like about 2 minutes here. Those are great. Those are great responses. And yeah, great. And I think I have one more. You live in a small community where law enforcement is family and you need to report child neglect. What's your map on that one? Kind of a tough one. What could be your I statement there? I have witnessed, or I have had reported to me this situation. And
folks in the chat are saying, oh, go directly to OCS first.
Okay.
Yeah, reporting it maybe without even telling anyone.
Okay. And this may be one that you do know how to handle, because unfortunately that can be the real world, and you've been, I'm sure, trained on all this. Again, just owning your power to take the action that you need to take and say the things that you need to say. All right, well, we're going to get into before I get to Q&A, I did ask you to think about that at the very beginning, a time when you had a confrontation, and how did it go? What kinds of choices did you make, and what were the consequences? And now, after we go through this map, can you see how the I statement could help you with that? And maybe you already did that. If so, gold star. And then asking for what you needed, what you want to see change, how powerful that is. And then checking in with the person, which hopefully isn't hard. The more personal it is, sometimes I think the harder it is. So apply this to your own situation. And then my closing points for you are to remember to pick your battles, but don't pick every battle. Okay. There are some things that, you don't pick this for everything. Some things are just really minor. Again, don't burn bridges. Life's too short. In the big picture, it doesn't matter, nor in the small photograph of life. In the big picture, some things don't matter. So then don't grab them. Grab the things that matter. And then I have wanted to leave you with some of my favorite words. Help me understand is how I try to make people re-explain something when they're saying things and I really don't get it, or I think it's really not a very intelligent response, or they're playing games, or they're just choosing to be playing games. So I say, help me understand why you think that way, or what is it that makes you think that this is a good idea? And so they just have to explain themselves a little bit more. And then sometimes I say, let me help you understand something. So that I thought I would throw those in as extra little phrases that you may use at some point in time. And always choose courage. Always choose the courage, because then you're being true to yourself. And if COVID taught us anything, it's about life is hard. And I guarantee you, you're going to keep having challenges. We all will. But when we practice this and we learn this and we keep going with this, you too are going to, again, become that same role model for other people who are going to be looking at you and saying, I want to be like that. I want to speak to people that way. I want to be able to speak and make my point without people getting upset or throwing things. I want to be able to have these difficult conversations. And they're going to think they can do that because they've seen you do it. And that reminds me also that if you're a supervisor and you have somebody who struggles with this, let them hear you talk to somebody this way. Let them hear your words. Let them learn from you. Because sometimes this is the hardest. Communication is really hard. It is the thing that can hold a lot of people back and shut them down and keep them from making progress in life. And so many times when people don't have the words, they do shut down. So this is about being that role model and giving people the examples. And talking about this during your staff meetings. This would be a great topic for staff meetings. Take the map and bring it in there and say, what are we thinking? What's the action? What do we want here? Okay. So with that, I'm going to stop share and try to get into the place where we can do a Q&A. So there, I put it into gallery view. I don't know if that helps, but what do you have for questions, Courtney?
Okay, so I'm going to start with this one, but first, if I can, Dee Dee, thank you so much. Everyone, if you could just join me in thanking Dee Dee Raap for an amazing session on, growing our communication, standing in our strength, and, really growing as leaders. Thank you so much. It's what an honor to have you here and know that you can connect with Alaska in this way. So hopefully you can see the chat now, but so many thank yous, and I loved it, and these are great steps. So much appreciation. We have about 10 more minutes, but I know it's going to end in discussion. So if I can just let you guys know now that on the conference schedule, there's evaluation. Your feedback is always appreciated. And today it's appreciated in the way of door prizes. So please fill that out, give your feedback, and thank you for your full engagement. I'm going to read our first question, and then I would invite you after we have a chance to talk about that to even take you yourself off mute and go ahead and ask if it saves time in the chat. So this first one comes from our friends, actually at the Children's Trust. They live in a smaller community. I mean, and work in a smaller community. It's a very small, and they're friends in the work environment and outside of the work environment. And they really enjoy their collegial atmosphere. But a lot of personal stuff comes up. There's a staff member that tends to always talk at work and always bring in their personal life to the point that it's starting to affect the work of others in the office. What suggestions do you have?
Okay, just off the top of my head, okay. I understand that there's lots of things that you want to talk about, and I'm not against communication, but it kind of distracts us a lot when we get into so many personal things. So we all care about each other here, and we all know each other. So can we just keep those conversations for our break time or our lunch time, and not bring it into the whole day, because we've got so much work to do. And we just kind of need to stay in that space of getting it done. I don't know. That's what I would say off the top of my head on that. Anybody have a better suggestion? I'm all ears. I don't claim to have the perfect answers here.
Please feel free to jump in by taking yourself off mute or use the chat.
Yeah, yeah. Is the person who asked that still on, or did you want to remain anonymous?
I think that had come from actually people are, can you see the chat now, GD? But people are really liking that suggestion. And I think the person did have to pop off. I think it was
okay.
folks.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? Let's just keep going. If you've got things that you want to talk about, or any other questions, scenarios, situations.
Darcy says, I tend to use a joke saying this is above my pay grade, and then just tries to move past.
Oh, my brother does that to me. He's my go-to person from life, my older brother. And I'll call him and ask him for help, and he'll say, oh, that's above my pay grade. I'm like, no, it's not. Talk to me. Yeah. Yeah. So if the question is, if people ask you things and you don't have the answer, I think it's always, I don't know, I'm too old to not be able to just be honest anymore and say, I don't know, but I will gladly look at that. I will try to figure out something, or maybe we can talk about it more. I think one of the things in life that's really important that kind of gets lost when we get so busy is the word curious. I think when we can remain curious about each other and want to learn more, want to understand more, I think everybody's in a better place.
So I captured too, and Cecilin, I hope I'm saying that correctly, gave a reminder earlier that sometimes, whether it's culturally, or that sometimes sense of humor, using humor can be misconstrued. And so she gave us just a friendly reminder about that. And then earlier from Darcy and Kristen, two comments that I wanted to capture that I think have a lot of light in what we're talking about now is, we tend, when we have these conversations, to run them over and over in our head, and just kind of think like, what went wrong? What, if things don't go well. And then Kristen says, what happens, thinking consequence-wise about when you already have kind of a negative track record with this person, but you have to have this dialogue, that it's this courageous conversation, but it kind of is overshadowed by the fact that maybe there have been some hiccups in the past.
I would go right to that. I would say, I know that we've had some hiccups in the past in our relationship. I will definitely own my part of not always being as clear and concise or whatever it is, as I wanted to be. So I will admit to my part on that, but I would also admit that we need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to solve these problems. And so I'm really hoping that we can work together to do that. Are you willing to work with me on this? That's what I might say. Does that sound decent?
A lot of affirmatives. We just have I'm one of the youngest on our staff in our school, and I'm coming from my culture. Coming from my culture, when you confront someone who's older,
right,
or of a higher status, it can be disrespectful. Yep. So how could you be assertive when culturally this can be seen as that's really not something?
Oh, exactly. And thank you for bringing that up. The highest level of manners and respect, and simply saying, I am, and it might even be where you use one of those really gentle, softening statements like, I really, and put in the words, I so respect you, And I so appreciate what you do and your role in our community and in our school and in our culture. I really do honor all of that about you. I have some concerns that I really would appreciate being able to talk with you about. One thing is with your wisdom and your position, I'm sure you've had lots of experiences that we could draw upon to solve this problem. So I'm just really asking you for help for me to help me understand this. That's how I might start that. I don't know if that works or not, but I would try to really, unless that's not authentic, okay? You have to be willing to authentically respect that person's position and experience in life, and then try to pull out of them the solutions, because they're probably there. They might be covered up. They might not always look good, but they're probably there. Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay, Dee Dee, I think we're going to just press you in the last few minutes.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't have a lunch break, but lots of thank yous for those.
Okay.
Andrew asks, how do you open up a conversation with one of your bosses if they are not good communicators and tend to get aggressive when they're disagreed with?
And let's say then you've had that experience in the past. So you might say, hey, I am, sometimes I'm a little bit afraid to talk with you because it can be challenging, but I really need to talk with you. So hopefully we can both just stay calm and we can talk about blah, 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 and find some solutions. And a lot of bosses are not good communicators. And so kind of trying to say, I really appreciate your role. I need to connect with you about this to solve a problem. Might be one approach. Don't be afraid to email me on that one, and I'll have more brain cells. And I'm very serious when I say that. Okay, very serious. Just email me. And it won't go anyplace else. I'll just tell you, I'll give you some more ideas on that one.
And I did add Dee Dee's email just now in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Some really good conversation just as we close up from Chrissy and I think Kristen and maybe Brittany about what surprised me today. What am I curious about? Just kind of keeping things in that, as you kind of recommended, like how can we approach things just by being a little bit more wondering about people and being in the right mindset. And then Lindsay shares, sometimes it just needs to be business. And so to say, something like this is a grant requirement, so people don't take it personally, like, hey, this is business.
Exactly. And that's when you don't blame, but you say, this is their regulations and they give us money and we have to do A, B, C, and D because that's how it works. And it's nothing personal. It's not that. And I also think that, let's end with thinking about this. When do you get the most defensive? What makes you feel defensive? For me, it's if I don't feel respected, if I feel accused, if somebody says, well, you don't know what you're doing. If I feel judged, then I feel defensive. So think about what makes you feel that way, and then try really hard to not make somebody feel that way. Okay, so the honoring, the respect, the kindness, this is about business. This isn't, I'm not being critical of you. Because somebody who tries really, really hard, a new employee who tries really, really hard and they're giving it their best and they messed up and it's got to be dealt with. There's so many nice ways to deal with that versus making somebody feel like, well, why are you in this job? Boy, you really screwed that up. No. We can do so much better.
Well, we are at time, and I know people have questions coming in, but again,
email me. Right. Seriously. There? I will email you back today, tomorrow, this weekend. I will. I'll give you the best of my brain cells. That's always my promise to people, because if I've got it, I'll give it to you. If I have no ideas, I'll tell you I got nothing for you. But thank you. And so find your power and live in that using all the manners. Manners is part of courage. It doesn't mean we have to be brusque and mean and short or aggressive. Just be kind with the assertive words. And I just think you'll feel so much better about things when you can communicate that way. You guys make such a difference. Thank you for all that you do. Please keep doing it. And because you're needed. you make a very real difference in life. So thank you. Thank you so much.
And we thank you again. It was a real honor to work with you on the
Oh,
interview
you're
today.
so welcome.
Be well.